It was 2 o'clock in the morning. Mid-December 2012. My husband and I had just returned from my cousin's wedding. We entered our home and sauntered into the kitchen. We were in jolly spirits. Then, there was a knock on the door. It wasn't a regular knock. Just one hard smack. As if something had been thrown at it. There was a moment of silence. Then it happened again. 2 knocks. Polite and unhurried. I looked at my husband. He looked back at me. I saw the same questions forming in his mind as were in mine. Who was smacking our door at 2 in the morning? The door knocked again. 3 polite knocks. My husband and I remained still. My husband had never been brave and masculine. He was a self-confessed coward. I could tell he wanted to hide behind the sofa. I got up and walked towards the door, reassuring my husband and telling him that there must be a logical explanation. I genuinely believed there was. I wasn't overly concerned. I pulled the door open and peered through the gap. No one was there. I opened the door fully and looked around outside. No one was there. I closed and locked the door. Then, there was another bang on the door. 3 loud smacks. My husband grabbed the phone and dialed as I walked back to the door. I snatched it out of his hand and gave him a playful frown as I placed it back on the hook. "It's kids," I said. "They'll go away." My husband didn't seem convinced. His eyes were fixed on the door. I poured water into a teapot, placed it on the hob, added a couple of tea bags and sparked up the gas. I readied 2 mugs. Then there was another smack on the door. 1 loud crack, as if a hand had been slammed hard against the door. Losing my patience, I marched towards the door and thrust it open. There was no one in sight. "Get lost!" I shouted. I was about to walk around in search of the culprit, but my husband pulled me back inside. He locked the door. I poured the tea into the mugs and handed one to my husband. We drank up, and eventually moved upstairs and clambered into bed. The banging on our front door had continued as we had drunk our tea. As we lay silent in bed, intermittent smacks continued to reverberate through the house. I had barely registered the unusual period of silence when the dark bedroom was filled with blue and red flashing lights. Sirens blared. Police vehicles were outside our house. I jumped out of bed and peered through the net curtains. There were about 5 police cars. A crew of police officers were apprehending someone in the middle of the street. I went outside and approached a police officer who was responding to queries from our neighbor. The police officer told us they had apprehended a notorious serial killer who had escaped from a maximum security prison. We later learned that this individual had a particularly nasty MO. He liked to play with his victims, taunting them, before eventually killing them. According to his Wikipedia page, his victims had initially heard knocks on the door, before he found entry to their homes and played his own version of hide-and-seek. That night, I didn't realize how close we really were to absolute horror. To this day, a shiver goes down my spine every time there is a knock on our door.